Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're diving into exactly how experienced heavy equipment operators can finally pass the Red Seal HEO exam on their absolute first try. You've got, 3, maybe 15 years of real-world field experience? You know how to run iron cold. But you're here right now because you need to translate all of that incredible hands-on knowledge into the formal, rigid language of a written exam. Let's just state the obvious reality right up front. You've already put in the hours. You know exactly how to grade a slope, safely push load a scraper, or run a flawless trench cycle. But now you need the paper. You need this specific certification to make your skills completely portable and actually recognized across all of Canada. Because getting that Red Seal endorsement, that's the exact thing that separates a good operator who's kind of stuck in one region from a recognized journeyman who can literally write their own ticket anywhere in the country.
But this brings us to a massive, incredibly frustrating question. Why do 10-year veterans keep failing the Red Seal written exam? I mean, it happens all the time. You have these seasoned pros who know the job inside and out. They walk into the testing center, sit down, and end up failing a written test about their very own trade. Honestly, it's enough to make anyone want to throw their hard hat across the room.
Well, let's get right into it because the answer's actually incredibly straightforward. It's not the work, it's the test. The core issue here is that the Red Seal exam isn't testing whether you can physically operate the machinery. You've already proven that in the dirt. It's testing if you can answer theoretical, regulatory questions in a highly formal, written format. It's just a completely different language. So, moving into our first main area, the Red Seal advantage, and why this bureaucratic hurdle is actually worth your time. Okay, so the Red Seal Interprovincial Program is basically a national standard managed by Employment and Social Development Canada. What does that actually mean for you in plain English? It means mobility. Construction moves, big projects move. Holding this ticket means you can move right along with them. You can pack up and go from BC to Alberta or maybe Saskatchewan to Ontario, and your certification is instantly recognized. You never have to sit down and rewrite your exams just because you crossed a provincial border. Now, the certification itself is broken down into two distinct streams based on the National Occupational Analysis, or NOA. You've got the Dozer stream, which covers your blade work, grading, push cuts, and site prep, and then you've got the Excavator stream for dig cycles, trench work, grade checking, and swing. The golden rule here, only challenge the exam for the machine you actually have the most hours on. Seriously, don't overcomplicate it. The exam is going to be a deep, 100-question dive into the specific capabilities, safety, and operation of that one stream. And why exactly should you jump through all these bureaucratic hoops? Because passing this exam unlocks journeyman wage rates. We're talking serious money. Getting your Red Seal can easily mean a $10 to $20 an hour wage increase, pushing you anywhere from $62 to $82 an hour, depending on your union and your region. To put that into perspective, it's not just a piece of paper. It's a massive multiplier for your overall earning potential. All right, let's move on to what's actually on the exam, breaking down this 100-question test. The questions you'll face are spread across 5 major blocks derived straight from the NOA. You'll see questions on work organization and safety, equipment operation, preventative maintenance, site prep and earthwork, and finally, environmental and regulatory compliance. The trick here is they want to know if you understand the why behind your daily operations, not just the how. Like, do you know the exact reason a sheep's foot roller works best on cohesive soil, rather than just knowing that's the machine the foreman told you to use? Now really pay attention to this part, because a massive chunk of the test focuses heavily on Canadian regulations. This is the exact stuff that constantly trips up field veterans. The exam strongly rewards operators who sit down and memorize these strict numbers and rules. You've absolutely got to know WHMIS 2015, the BC WorkSafe power line clearances, the fact that a BC One Call underground locate is only valid for exactly 30 days, that your field level risk assessment has to be done daily before work starts, and the ins and outs of the Fisheries Act. Let's look at an actual, real-world example of this. Say the question asks, in BC, what is the minimum clearance distance required from a power line operating at under 750 volts? The exam completely expects you to know that the answer is exactly 3 meters. They won't accept something like far enough to be safe. This gives you a really good taste of the formal, rigid phrasing you're going to encounter on test day. Which brings us perfectly to the field versus exam trap and why your years of experience can actually be a double-edged sword. Let's look at trenching rules for a second. What you might get away with on a super fast-paced job site is completely different from the strict regulatory answers the Red Seal exam demands. Out in the field, an operator might think, well, we always just kept digging to get the job done. But the exam desperately wants to hear, stop machine. Ensure 1.5-meter trench cave-in protection is in place. If your field instinct conflicts with the written regulation, trust me, the exam always wants the regulation. Here's another classic one. A hydraulic leak on a cylinder. In the real world, you might just wipe the hydraulic cylinder leak and monitor it while you're working, so you don't slow down production, right? But the exam reality? Tag the machine out of service and report the leak immediately. The exam will always reward the most conservative, by-the-book answer. It heavily penalizes operators who default to their real-world shortcuts. I love this quote because it hits the nail right on the head. The exam tests what should happen, not what you've gotten away with. Listen, you absolutely do not need to relearn your trade. You already know how to move dirt better than anyone writing these tests. You just need to translate your knowledge into the exam's language. Just give them the textbook answer to pass the test, and you can go back to reality when you're back on the job site. So let's talk about your focused study plan. How exactly to prep for this without feeling like you're going back to high school? Following a structured sequence is absolutely essential here. First, take a baseline practice test to find your weak spots. You need to know where you're starting from. Second, drill those Canadian regulations and memorize those strict numbers we talked about earlier. And third, review a 10-minute cram sheet right before walking into the testing center. Doing this familiarizes you with the test's format and gets your brain used to that tricky regulatory jargon. And understanding roles perfectly illustrates another trap you need to study, the duty chain. The exam frequently tries to trick you on workplace versus work site obligations. You need to know that the prime contractor coordinates site safety. The employer provides the fall protection and WHMIS training. The supervisor ensures the hole is actually safe, and the worker is responsible for completing the daily FLRA and following procedures. Knowing exactly whose legal responsibility is whose will save you a ton of lost points. Finally, let's look at some actual resources to help you pass today. Stuff built by operators for operators. If you want to see exactly where you stand right now, Dirt School has built some amazing tools with zero academic fluff. You can grab free practice questions and a free 10-minute printable cram sheet over at dirtschool.ca. But if you want the whole shebang, head to dirtschool.gumroad.com. For just $9.99, you can download their full Red Seal HEO study guide PDF. It's written in plain English, includes a full 100-question practice test, and features those absolutely crucial field versus exam callouts to highlight exactly how the test tries to trick you. It really is the best tool to just get this done. Which leaves us with this final thought. You already have the skills to run the iron. But are you ready to swallow your pride for just a few hours, learn the language of the test, and unlock your career across all of Canada? Don't let a written exam hold back a massive $20 an hour raise. Grab the study materials, outsmart their system, and go get your paper. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay safe out there.